It's a great honor and a privilege to have Professor David Newman, prior Dean of the Human Sciences at Ben Gurion University, grew up in London and had a personal connection with Rabbi Shonfeld.
Well, I wouldn't say it was really a personal connection, but I went to the Avigdor school, which was named after Rabbi Dr. Shonfeld's father, Rabbi Avigdor Shonfeld, and this was part of the Jewish secondary school movement, of which Dr. Shonfeld, after World War II, was instrumental in founding both high schools and primary schools, and the Avigdor was one of his schools. So I really only knew him in the latter part of his life, and what I do recollect that every Friday morning we had assembly for Shabbat, for Shabbos, and he used to come along and give a 10-minute fire and brimstone speech. We all used to be absolutely scared of him, and he used to come and give a fire and brimstone speech about being good Jewish kids before the whole school. At the time we were at school, we didn't really know much about his background from the Second World War. It wasn't spoken about that much. And I think a lot of this came out at a much later stage, even after he passed away, even after he died. And yet the school I was at the Avigdor, there were a lot of kids whose parents had come out of Germany either before or after the war, and as it turns out in retrospect, a lot of them were brought out by Solomon Shonfeld.
So, Prof, he's in a way like an unsung hero.
He's an unsung hero. He was a bit of a maverick in the 60s and 70s. He was part of the Agudat Yisrael movement. He wasn't part of the mainstream Jewish community, and there was sometimes sort of tensions or conflicts with the mainstream Jewish community, especially about the very independent way he insisted on running his school system. And of course there was the background that he was both in and out of the community, in the sense that he was married to Judith Hertz, who was the daughter of the very famous chief rabbi, Rabbi Dr. Joseph Hertz, during the World War II, and that probably helped him with his relief efforts. But as I say, it wasn't spoken about a great deal in the 50s and 60s when he was still alive and when we were his students at his school. It came out a lot later. I remember just a few years ago I was in London by chance on Tisha B'Av, and Tisha B'Av fell out on a Sunday, and all the different shuls had special programs relevant to Tisha B'Av, and the Ner Yisrael community in Hendon decided to have a whole afternoon of memories of Dr. Shonfeld, and they thought that their members would come along. Over 200 people turned up. People who may have been saved by him, or their children and grandchildren, people who had been at his schools, and including one of his sons gave a talk about him. And it's unbelievable to think just how many people owe their lives and their descendants' lives, whether it be in England or Israel, and I'm sure in some other places around the world, to the efforts of Dr. Shonfeld before and after World War II.
Oh, so Prof, thank you so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it.
Okay, my pleasure. As I say, in the last 15-20 years, 3 or 4 books have come out about him, different perspectives on his life and his background, but there's a lot to learn about him. And if I said he was a bit of a maverick in the 50s and 60s, the way he brought out kids was a bit of a maverick as well. He took a British Army uniform, he'd never been in the British Army, and he simply strode into the monasteries and the convents and other places and insisted on taking the Jewish kids out. He didn't bear no for an answer.
And I think what was amazing about him, it didn't make a difference one's religious observance. There were secular Jewish kids.
Yeah, I think he did focus more on the religious community, but of course he brought any Jewish kids out. But one thing he did insist on, unlike a lot of the other kinder transport, was he would only take them into Jewish homes in England. He would not allow any of the kids that he brought out to go to non-Jewish homes. And one of the strange parts of the kinder transport, which was such an important project, was that something like 50% of the kids that came out didn't have Jewish homes to go to, and they ended up in non-Jewish homes. Some came back to the community afterwards, some were lost. I mean, their lives were saved, but they were lost spiritually. But Shonfeld would not allow a single one of his kids to go to a non-Jewish home.
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to end off with the saying, when people asked him how many people did you save, his answer was, how many did I not manage to save?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.